Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kuswantoro Marco. I am from Department of Geography, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Universitas Indonesia, and currently I am as a doctoral student at Civil Engineering, Universitas Indonesia. In this valuable occasion, that is the third conference of the Arabian Journal of Geosciences, I would like to present my paper entitled Evaluation of Variability, Resilience, and Vulnerability Application for Watershed Health Assessment. A review. Please enjoy. Why this research need to be done? This research was conducted to evaluate the application of the watershed health assessment with the reliability, resilience, and vulnerability framework. This evaluation is carried out based on the results of the review of the previous research in the last 40 years, so that the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities will be known in its application, which is very useful not only for researchers but also for policymakers. Thus, a more economical, simple, fast, and accurate approach can be found and developed. The outline of this presentation as follows. Introduction. The development of population numbers and their increasingly uncontrolled activities, especially in developing countries such as Indonesia, which has occurred since the end of the 20th century. It can suppress the health condition of watersheds both in terms of quantity and quality. Watershed monitoring and assessment efforts are very important to do in order to know the general health status of the watershed. Watershed health is used as an extension of the concept of ecological or ecosystem health at the watershed scale. The United States Environmental Protection Agency, or US EPA, in 2012 described healthy watersheds as area where natural land cover supports dynamic hydrological and geomorphological processes within their range of natural variation. Habitats of sufficient size and connectivity to support native aquatic and riparian species, and physical and chemical water quality conditions that can support healthy biological communities. The US EPA has stated that there are at least 6 indicators that can be used in assessing watershed health, which are landscape conditions, geomorphology, hydrology, water quality, habitat, and biological conditions. Applying the 6 indicators together in a watershed health assessment will result in far more valid conclusion than using 1 or 2 indicators. Watershed health assessment using RRP framework is probabilistic, which refers to the frequency and severity of deviations from watershed health indicators against risk. Using risk-based parameters, one can measure the likelihood of deviations from the threshold set at various locations, the likelihood of natural recovery in the event of the threshold violations, and the damage incurred due to the duration spent on the ovens. At the beginning of its emergence, RRV framework was used to analyze the performance status of the system that is expressed as satisfactory or unsatisfactory in a reservoir system. Later, it is adopted for assessing the health of watershed. This paper tries to answer the question of how have previous researchers applied the RRV framework to assess watershed health. Conceptual model. Before we discuss about the result of review studies, let me explain in a brief about the conceptual models of RRV. Here, we can define reliability is a system that can be described by the frequency or probability that a system is in a satisfactory condition, as shown on the formula number 1. Resilience is how quickly the system returns to a satisfactory state after failure, as shown on the formula number 2. And vulnerability is how severe of the consequences of failure occur, as shown on the formula number 3. Hocus et al. In 2012 illustrates how a water quality parameter in time dimension fails, or F, and doesn't fail, or NF, where D1, D2, and D3 are the duration of failure time, which refers to the standard or threshold determined in the RRV calculation, as shown in the following figure. So, the RRV method requires a long term of data to know how healthy the system. Then, Jelson and Rosberg formulated a mathematical definition of reliability, resilience, and vulnerability in time series data as follows. We can see in the formula number 4 to number 6. Results. Here, the summary of the application of RRV framework since 40 years ago regarding on the approach, field study, and indicators used. The article ranges from 1973 to 2020. So there are 28 review articles from international journals which are indexed in Scopus and ISR. Based on the previous studies until 2020, there are no studies that applied RRV to assess watershed health by involving the 6 indicators mentioned by US EPA. It is due to the difficulty of obtaining the complete data. The basic concept of RRV is based on the probability of watershed health conditions requiring long time series data, as was done by Hashimoto et al. In 1982. Thus, the health assessment of the watershed Thus, the assessment of the watershed health is based on few indicators only. The criteria selection of each study area is not always same among the studies. Also, for the threshold values are not same for each study areas. Discussion. In the discussion, we have summarized the strength, weakness, and opportunity of the RRP framework. Here, strengths. First, RRP framework is a quick assessment for watershed health. Second, the selection of several indicators or criteria is the best solution in assessing watershed health with the RRP framework. Therefore, the weaknesses. First, the data required to carry out the analysis must have long time series. It is not easy to apply the 6 watershed health indicators as stated by US EPA due to not all regions have complete observation data. So, based on these literature reviews, we can know the opportunities for the next research that applying the RRP framework to assess the watershed health. Here, first, remote sensing approach can be potential method in getting long time series data, either spatially or temporally. Second, landscape and climatological indicators can be used as key indicators for quick assessment and monitoring of the watershed health. Third, natural land cover condition can be the main criteria in assessing watershed health. There is a driving factor in determining the hydrological characteristics and water quality of a water body, which can also affect habitat and biological conditions. So the conclusion and recommendation. The application of the RRP framework in assessing watershed health has been carried out by many previous researchers. The ideal watershed health assessment involved the 6 indicators that have been revealed by US EPA. However, in practice, there is no researcher has applied all of these indicators. The long duration of time series data is the main requirement for implementing the RRP framework. For this reason, the use of remote sensing data to identify a landscape condition in the form of natural land cover is the best approach. In addition to being a solution to data limitation, the ability to be applied to all areas and getting a quick conclusion about the health level of the watershed is reliable. Here are the references, and thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, you can send your question by through my email. Here's my email, kuswantoro@sgi.ui.ac.id. Bye.